Hello, and welcome to the second expression sheet video. This is Hannah, the second and final character for the short film. So, like in the first video, I have the 6 dummy heads done for reference, which I put together from just looking at expressions from sheets I found online. I actually want to do something a little different from the reference image here. I want a less neutral expression, and something to push the face a bit more. It was the initial shape I did for the cheek that made me choose to do this. Nothing is set in stone here, and I want some freedom to get to explore. I'm just smoothing out the jaw here to get more in line with the shape of Hannah's head. I was struggling to actually execute the idea I had, and went to go look at some references before continuing. I want Hannah to be looking like she's kind of fed up, so I'm trying to figure out how the mouth and cheek look here. With the eyebrows, I just want them to be similar to her father's, but not as large. I really started to struggle with the whole thing at this stage. I just felt like a few things weren't working, and I didn't really know how to make them work. When I edited the video, I was actually shocked how much I was fussing over everything and not taking a step back. So watching the footage again and having to edit it way down has really reinforced the idea of taking a step back and trying to understand exactly what I'm trying to achieve. I changed the mouth shape for her to be blowing air out, and then had to also change the cheeks. I also thinned her head and made it a little longer to change its proportions, so that it's a little more in contrast to her father. And I messed with the eyes again just a little bit more, and I think I ended up getting a better result this time. And then finally, I moved on to the second pose, and it's 6 poses, 2 facing right, 1 facing head on, and 3 to the left, to try get a well-rounded understanding of her head at different angles. The second drawing is definitely coming along faster compared to the last one. I'm making adjustments here to try and make both heads match up. I'm not loving the eyebrows, so I'm trying to get them closer to what I want. Something didn't feel quite right with the head on this pose. It felt a little too different to the previous drawing, but I wasn't sure why, so I tried to compare it to an earlier sketch of Hannah. I'm using it to try and make sure that the facial features are sitting in roughly the same position. And then jump back to dreaded number 1 for another touch-up. I wasn't happy with how the mouth was turning out, and I felt the smile was a bit too intense, so I went for a more neutral expression. And I'm glad I did, because this ended up actually being my favourite of the 6. Now I'm just checking to see if the position of the eyes is okay. I wanted to show here that throughout the whole thing I'm pulling back and looking at each image to make sure I'm not going too far off the mark. I can see there's differences, but I'm not really worried about it. and I still feel I'm in that discovery stage. I'm taking note of what I like individually about each drawing, and thinking about how to tie them together while keeping the individual things that appeal to me. One of the things I really like is the shape of the head on the left, so I'm keeping that softer shape in mind going forward. At this stage I feel like there's still more work left to be done on each image, but I think I've learned more from continuing on than I have from just constantly going back and editing. On the left facing poses, I'm going for an upward angle to try push my understanding of the head more. I don't really feel there's much to be gained by just keeping the same position, but facing left instead. I definitely found the addition of the upward angle challenging, but that was part of the point of it. I'm trying to catch myself out and find blind spots in my understanding of both the character's physicality and my draftsmanship. And I definitely found them. A lot of times. You can see I'm fiddling with this more than I really care to, but eventually I was able to kind of move on and it took off a bit faster. So far this whole thing has been a great way to discover a process that works for me. Although I of course want to create this film, the stakes realistically are incredibly low, which alleviates a lot of pressure and allows me to focus more on what I'm learning along each step of production. I couldn't get the hair to fall correctly at this point. I felt that it just looked unnatural and flat, particularly on the side I'm currently drawing on. That's when I realised that the hair was inconsistent with each of the drawings, that both pieces of the hair that frame her face aren't flowing the same way, and realising that helped me a lot to make the hair feel more natural on the left and right poses. I don't think I would have noticed it if I had just obsessed over each image until I felt they were fully complete. This idea of pressing forward in spite of my gut telling me they need fixing is, I think, helping me to actually identify the issues with them. So after figuring that out, I went back and fixed up the rest of them. I started the fifth pose, and pretty quickly I decided I wanted to alter the face she was making. I was reminded of one of the characters from The Rescuers, Mr. Snoops, so I started looking at images of him. Then I realised it wasn't him I was actually thinking of, but Penny, one of the film's protagonists. So I grabbed the image of her making the exact expression, and then just used that as the dummy. I recently watched a video essay about George Lucas and how many things he pulled from and referenced in the making of Star Wars. I found it really inspiring and helpful for allowing myself to use more references. Using references for these expressions has helped significantly in the outcome, as well as my learning. I was able to try more difficult poses with a bit more comfort, and I feel like I've grown a lot just from doing these two expression sheets. The hair hanging on the right was bothering me, but I had learned enough at this stage to just trust the process and move on, figuring I'd gain more insight by pressing ahead like I had on other occasions throughout this whole thing. Another thing I've learned from is knowing when to walk away. It's definitely easier for me to just sit there and keep running against the same wall in the hopes that I can break through. But realising when I'm out of stamina and that it would be better to come back and look critically at each drawing with fresh eyes has helped me divide my time between several tasks. Like taking a break from drawing to do some editing, and vice versa. I ended up working on the images a bit while I paused the footage, but I'll go through what I did. I knew the eyes were way off on the final pose, so I decided to take it slow and simple. I just drew circles where the eyes were and really paid attention to mapping it correctly. With the pupils in place and the form of the sphere drawn, it was just a case of drawing over that and maintaining that sense of form when drawing the eyelids. Next, I wanted to adjust the neck and jaw area of the bottom 3 poses. I knew what I wanted to change, but didn't know how to visually articulate it. The jawline seemed too harsh. I felt that you should be seeing more of the underside of the jaw, so I did a little research and then came back when I felt I knew how to execute it. The issue was that I had the side profile of the head leading straight into the jawline and the neck coming out separately underneath. What I needed to do was have that profile line run into the neckline, and then use a softer line to indicate between the jawline and the underside of the jaw. Finally, the 2 draped parts of her head still didn't feel right to me. I cut the line closest to the ear so it was no longer fully overlapping the back of her head. This made it all feel more natural and less flat. And that's the expression sheets finished. I'll clean them up another time and maybe upload a video about that. Next, I'm going to be doing the character turnarounds. I'm also going to try animate them, so please pray for me. Whether it succeeds or fails, I'll show you what I did and what my takeaways are from trying. I hope you gained something from this video, and if there's anything you might like to see a tutorial about, let me know and I'll try to make a video on that topic. Thanks for watching. See you later.